Imagine being accused of a crime you didn't commit only to be judged by an organization that doesn't recognize your innocence. Welcome to the world of the Inquisition. The Inquisition, a word that evokes images of torture, persecution, and religious fanaticism, was a system established by the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. Its purpose? To discover and suppress heresy, a belief or opinion contrary to orthodox religious doctrine. But did you know that the Inquisition was not a singular event, but rather a series of inquisitions spread across centuries and continents? Originating in the 12th century, the first Inquisitions were instituted to combat the Cathar heresy in southern France. These early inquisitions were sporadic and localized, but they set a chilling precedent for what was to come. The Spanish Inquisition, established in the late 15th century, is perhaps the most infamous of all. It was initially intended to maintain Catholic orthodoxy in Spain and to replace the medieval Inquisition, which was under papal control. However, it soon became a tool for both religious repression and political manipulation. Yet, the Spanish Inquisition is just the tip of the iceberg. There were also inquisitions in Portugal, Italy, and even as far afield as the Americas and Asia. These inquisitions targeted not only so-called heretics, but also scientists, philosophers, and free thinkers, anyone who dared to challenge the prevailing religious or political orthodoxy. Inquisitions were not just about controlling beliefs, they were about controlling people. They were a tool for consolidating power, for instilling fear, and for suppressing dissent. They were a dark chapter in our history, a time when fear and intolerance overruled reason and justice. But it's essential to remember that history is not just about the past. It's about understanding how the past shapes our present and our future. The echoes of the Inquisition can still be heard today, in our debates about religious freedom, freedom of thought, and the role of state power in controlling individual beliefs. With the stage set, let's delve into the lesser-known facts about the Inquisition. The Spanish Inquisition may be the most infamous, but it wasn't the first. The Inquisition started centuries earlier in 12th century France. Let that sink in. While Spain's Inquisition is notorious for its brutality and intolerance, the roots of this heinous institution trace back to a time and place less often spoken about. In the 12th century, the Catholic Church was grappling with the rise of heretical movements within its own ranks. These movements, often led by charismatic preachers, questioned the Church's teachings and its authority. Fearing a loss of influence and control, the Church responded with a new institution designed to root out and suppress these heresies: the Inquisition. The First Inquisition was established in France with the primary goal of suppressing the Cathars, a Christian sect that held Gnostic beliefs. The Cathars posed a significant threat to the Church's authority, as they rejected the traditional hierarchy and sacraments. The Inquisition was a tool of control, a way to enforce orthodoxy and suppress dissent within the Christian community. The French Inquisition was brutal and relentless. Accusations of heresy were often based on suspicion or rumor, and the accused were subjected to rigorous interrogations and severe punishments. The aim was not just to punish the heretics, but to create a climate of fear, a deterrent against questioning the Church's authority. But the impact of the French Inquisition went beyond the immediate suppression of heresy. It set a precedent for the use of institutionalized violence in the name of faith. It established a model of persecution that would be replicated in later Inquisitions, including the infamous Spanish Inquisition. It marked the beginning of a dark chapter in the history of the Church in Europe, a chapter characterized by intolerance, persecution, and violence. The French Inquisition is a reminder that the quest for power and control can lead to the most heinous acts of cruelty. It's a testament to the lengths institutions will go to protect their authority and suppress dissent. This early Inquisition set a precedent for what was to come. While religious heretics were the primary targets, the Inquisition also targeted those who dared to think differently in science and philosophy. One such case is that of the renowned Galileo Galilei. An Italian polymath, Galileo was a central figure in the scientific revolution. His pioneering work in observational astronomy, physics, and engineering made him a household name. But it was his astronomical observations that landed him in hot water with the Church. In the early 17th century, Galileo supported the heliocentric model, which posited that the Earth and other planets revolved around the Sun. This view, however, directly contradicted the geocentric model endorsed by the Church, which placed the Earth at the center of the universe. Despite the mounting evidence in favor of heliocentrism, the Church declared it heretical, and Galileo was ordered to abandon his support for it. But Galileo was not one to back down. He continued his research, publishing Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems in 1632, defending heliocentrism. This act of defiance led to his trial by the Inquisition in 1633. Despite being found guilty of heresy and sentenced to house arrest for the rest of his life, Galileo's work laid the foundation for modern physics and astronomy. And it wasn't just scientists who felt the Inquisition's wrath. Philosophers and free thinkers who dared to challenge the status quo were also targeted. Many were accused of witchcraft, heresy, or blasphemy, with their works often banned or burned. This persecution of intellectual inquiry stifled progress. The fear of reprisal led many to self-censor, hindering innovation and the free exchange of ideas. The Church's iron grip on knowledge and belief led to a culture of intellectual stagnation that lasted for centuries. These stories paint a chilling picture of the Inquisition's reach into every aspect of life. The pursuit of knowledge, the freedom to think, to question, to explore, these were all seen as threats by the Inquisition. And those brave enough to challenge the status quo, to push the boundaries of human understanding, often paid a heavy price. The Inquisition wasn't confined to Europe. It reached as far as the Americas, with devastating effects. As the thirst for power and control grew, so did the reach of the Inquisition. Its tentacles extended across the Atlantic, reaching the untouched lands of the New World. The indigenous populations of the Americas, with their unique and diverse cultures, were viewed through a lens of suspicion and fear by the inquisitors. They were seen as savages who needed to be civilized, their animistic beliefs and practices deemed heretical, and their refusal to convert to Christianity was seen as a direct challenge to the authority of the Church. The consequences were brutal. Thousands of indigenous people were persecuted, tortured, and executed for their beliefs. Their sacred texts and artifacts were destroyed, their cultures suppressed, and their populations decimated. The Inquisition was not just a religious crusade but also an instrument of colonialism, eradicating indigenous cultures to pave the way for European domination. But the Inquisition's impact in the Americas was not just immediate. It left a long-lasting scar, the effects of which are still felt today. Indigenous languages, traditions, and ways of life were lost, replaced with European ones. The cultural genocide inflicted by the Inquisition has had a profound and lasting impact on the identity and psyche of the Americas. Yet in the face of such adversity, the indigenous peoples of the Americas have shown remarkable resilience. Despite the attempts to erase their cultures, fragments have survived, passed down through generations. Today, these fragments are being pieced together as indigenous communities strive to reclaim their history and identity. The Inquisition in the Americas serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of intolerance and dogma. It is a chapter of history that must not be forgotten, for it holds lessons that are still relevant today. As we look back, we must remember the countless lives that were lost, and the cultures that were destroyed in the name of religious purity and colonial expansion. Thus, the shadow of the Inquisition extended far beyond the borders of Europe. The Inquisition left an indelible mark on history, and its effects are still felt today. This dark period, characterized by religious intolerance and the suppression of intellectual freedom, has shaped our world in ways that are both profound and chilling. One of the most striking impacts of the Inquisition was its stifling effect on scientific progress. During this era, many brilliant minds were silenced out of fear. Consider the case of Giordano Bruno, who was burned alive at the stake for refusing to adhere to many doctrines. This climate of fear and repression had a chilling effect on scientific inquiry, delaying advancements that could have propelled us into the modern age much sooner. But the Inquisition's legacy extends beyond the realm of science. It also fostered a culture of religious intolerance that persisted long after the Inquisition's formal end. Throughout Europe, the Inquisition created deep divisions between religious communities, sowing seeds of mistrust and hostility that continue to bear fruit in some parts of the world today. However, while the Inquisition represents a dark chapter in our history, it also offers a stark reminder of the importance of intellectual freedom and the power of the human spirit. Despite the threats and persecution, many continued to question, to seek truth, and to push the boundaries of what was considered acceptable thought. Their courage and resilience serve as a beacon for all who value freedom of thought and expression. The Inquisition, though a grim period in history, also serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the weaponization of fear. The echoes of this past continue to reverberate in the present, serving as a cautionary tale for the future. And so, as we look back at the Inquisition, we are reminded of the power of fear, the importance of intellectual freedom, and the enduring human spirit that continues to seek truth in the face of oppression. Until the next time, stay curious and keep exploring the past.